First, when you don't have any knowledge, then you think it's all about the gear because you see. Okay, welcome again. So based on yesterday's video about the Canon 5D Classic, it kind of made me wonder to talk about this question: does gear really matter, and if yes, how? As you guys all know, what we all photographers think, like the best camera is the one that you have with you all the time. So if it's a Leica that you like to carry with you, then it's a Leica. If your iPhone, it's your iPhone, or whatever it is. If it's with you, then that's the camera for that moment. The other question we want to talk about is, does better gear mean better pictures, or does better gear makes you a better photographer? And I would say no, not without the knowledge. If you have the knowledge, then and you know how to use that new device and how to edit, and you're ready for the better device. Because if I just give my mom an RE or a Red or the latest and greatest whatever is the best camera gear, my mom probably won't know the difference. She will be intimidated. She won't even pick it up, and even if she does, she probably shoot exactly the same kind of stuff that you would shoot with your iPhone in the first place. So I think, yeah, gear does matter if you know how to use it, but if you have the know-how, if you are a photographer and you've been shooting and you see light, you can visualize stuff and understand the technology, then you can shoot exceptional stuff even without a good gear. Like there are examples, like I believe there are actually cinema movies made by using only an iPhone, like I think it was Mandarin or something like that. It was a street kind of movie. They only used these moment lenses on the iPhone, and the whole thing was shot, and I'm not sure about the edit, but probably edited too. That was all made on an iPhone, and I think it's won some kind of award in Cannes as well. So if you know what you're doing, you can shoot exceptional stuff even on a Polaroid, with film, the cheapest camera on the whole world, a pinhole camera if you know what you're doing. So I think knowledge is much more important. And on this matter again, does camera gear matter or not? I would say yes. At first you think it matters. Like I think that's where the whole debate came from. Like when people say camera gear doesn't matter, this normally comes from people who have all the gear, like, or they had all the gear, or they've been using all the gear in their business, like famous photographers, like, or famous even YouTubers like Peter McKinnon and all the top guys. They shoot all their stuff on a Red with the most expensive production value and everything, and they say it does not matter. And yeah, you have to understand that once you have the knowledge, you can use any cheap device, to make it work and create art or valuable content. They use that stuff because they can afford it now, and also it's probably making their life easier at the moment, because let's face it, if you can afford it, like if I had so much money that I have a camera in every room or every different studio, is always constantly set up, lights always constantly standing in the same way, so it's just ready for you, and then whenever you have an idea you can just flick it on and record. That's much more likely that you're gonna create content than if you have like one iPhone and you are using 2 or 3 tiny LEDs that always needs charging, and you don't even know where they are in the house. You have to set it up every day. You have to always work out if the angle is working of the camera or the light is burning out. So if you have to set the rig up every day, multiple times even, then you won't be that much likely shooting or creating content every day. That's for video or YouTube. But the same with photography. Like if it's not that readily available, or you have to hustle with it, then obviously it's a pain always. And also on the other hand, I would say gear also matters if you I think for this you might also have to have a little bit of understanding, but for me, in my understanding, like when I started shooting at the very first time, I had a film camera and I was very happy with it. I was shooting with it for years. But then always technology developed and then digital cameras started to come out, Canon 5D Classic and all that. So you were started to wonder like, what else could I do if I had this? And then you have this massive gas building up, gear acquisition syndrome. So basically you crave it, because you are also a geek, you kind of want it, and you think it's gonna be like making a huge difference in your art work or just work or whatever you are doing with your gear. But then once you have it, then you realize it doesn't really matter that much. So I think that's where it's coming from, what I wanted to say with this. So basically gear matters in a way to this point with my life, like but for a different reason. For me it's gear is only because I think it's about passion, like I love using that piece of equipment. Like say you are a Leica shooter and you just love that Leica with you, and Leica shooters probably they have an emotional connection with their gear as well, and it's always with you, so for that reason you're always more likely to shoot more, so you have more shots every day. Then from the more shots, the more pictures, the more experience, you have much more good or better content coming out. So the more you use something, the more you will like it. So if you love the equipment you have, then it's always with you. And also for me, like for my professional work, I use a set of modern lenses that you have to have, because you have to deliver an image quality to a certain standard, and you have to be able to reliable. Let's say if you're a wedding photographer, you can't really swing around with, I don't know, Meyer optic or Eston. You could make it happen, but you don't want to risk it. It's a few £1,000 wedding. You don't want to risk it with a manual lens. You can, but you don't want to. Something in my eye. So basically, for me, I have like special use lenses. I was like collecting them for like years, because there is a lot of thing goes into it. So basically, I like a certain kind of look. I've been geeking around. I went on forums and I learned about it and talked to people on Flickr and in the forums, and then did the whole thing again, and then more and more and more and more. So basically, you find what is your style and what kind of equipment fits your style. So basically, I like obviously the modern style, and that's, but for my passion I like the vintage kind of look. So basically I have a huge selection of vintage lenses. Not that huge, because I'm trying to dial it down now, just to have the ones I like. Like I want to keep like 2 or 3 or 5 maybe in every prime focal length. So 35, the Opton Biogon, obviously 35, insane good looking lens, very hard to find a good copy. And also, even if you do, there's a massive sample variation, so you might buy lots of lenses and then you sell it because you don't like it, but maybe another copy of that exact same lens clicks with you just like that. I had the same thing. I had I don't know where it is. I had this Leica Sumarit 50mm 1.5, and I had 2 copies of that. The first one I had to sell it because it just didn't deliver. I don't know, because these are like 70 years old lenses, and they only were made in a very fine number, very limited number, and depends on what kind of life they had, how they've been treated or where they've been stored. The coating might missing, or it might be scratched, or somebody took it apart and didn't know how to put it back together, and no one really knows how it works. So that lens didn't work out for me. I sold it. I bought a new one last year from, not new, but a different copy. It came from France, and I took a risk on it because it was a bit dusty on the inside, but I took it apart and I serviced it. There is a video about that on YouTube. I uploaded it at the beginning of the year. So yeah, gear does matter. Long story short, so gear does matter, that you like what you use. So if you like a certain kind of look that only one certain kind of lens has, then you will be excited using that equipment. So in that aspect, yes, it matters, but it's only about the creative art process. I think in general it's far more important that you have an understanding of the equipment what you are using, understanding of light, understanding of where to be when you are shooting, or even just to seeing light, because many people don't even see light. I mean, you see light, but I don't know how to say this, but and then I don't even want to sound like an idiot. Maybe I am already, but for example, every time I'm just walking around in a city or everyday life, whatever, yeah, even if you're just driving, I just see light, and I always it's unconscious for me in my head, like it just snaps like, oh, that would be a good picture, oh, what a good light. And some of my favorite pictures are, you know, they are just shot in a moment, like I didn't even plan. For example, I was shooting this there is a picture of that on my Instagram. I might upload it in the video. So basically I was shooting at this wedding catalog shoot for a friend, and we had a few models lined up, and everybody has their different models allocated to them. So I was waiting for my models to get ready with the makeup and outfit and whatever. But on the same time I saw some, so I didn't have anybody to shoot, but I saw this amazing light coming through light, and I was like, oh my god, I had to shoot it. And I just had to borrow a model from another photographer for 10 minutes just to get that one shot. And that one shot is still one of my favorite portraits to date. So yeah, if you see light, then you can work with it. So I think that's far more important, that you have a understanding and you can apply it to whatever gear you have. And then you can be picky, obviously, on what kind of gear you like. Some people like Nikon because it's much more ergonomic to their hand, that's one thing. Or somebody like Canon because the Canon colors or much more ergonomic to their hands because they are somewhat different. Or Sony, like me, I'm Sony, but it's not because I'm a fanboy, it's because, well, Sony was the first who came up with a decent mirrorless system, and I don't really care about the camera that much, like as far digital goes, except for the 5D. So I don't really care. I just I'm a geek, a nerd of vintage lenses, like, and I like to use different. I like Leica lenses. I like vintage, the Opton sonar, for example. Like I like vintage lenses for vintage looks, or the Leica Sumar or Sumaron. I have a collection of these, and I wanted to use them on digital body. And if you want to adapt, at that time when I started collecting lenses, Sony was the only reliable and available mirrorless system where it kind of makes it easier, because if you want to adapt Sony and the mirrorless system in general, you have the peaking stuff, and then you can see exactly, or you can punch in, you can zoom in and you see exactly if it's in focus or not. Or like me, because I like the Leica glass, and I have a few of those, so I bought one of these tiny tech art Sony adapters, Sony to, and don't laugh at me, it's I know it's stupid because it's all about the feel and the manual focus and the experience, but I'm also 45, so my eyesight is not as good as it was. And if I had this tech art adapter, I just slap it on, put an M mount on the Leica lens, and you have autofocus, eye autofocus on a 70 years old lens, which is, you can't beat it. I mean, for my pro work, I use the Batis lenses. I just love the Batis lenses. I know it's not the GM or whatever, but I just love the Batis for some reason, and I have my own reasons. I just love the look, and it does work for me. Anyway, but for my private life and for my hobby shoots, I really love these vintage ones. And in that aspect, yes, gear does matter. Because if I don't have that lens what I like, sometimes months go by without me shooting at all. Like sometimes I'm like, if I don't have anything to shoot for work, and I wouldn't have my hobby lenses that I am really passionate about, like for example, when I bought this Sumarit, I was babying it, cleaning it up, servicing it, even made a YouTube video about it. But even to this day, like if I just am chilling in the sitting room, and I have a massive window in the sitting room, and when the sun goes down in sunset time, I have beautiful light coming in. So I just take pictures and I was just like stupid stuff that no one needs to see, you know, it just because there's a good light. So, and I wouldn't do that if I had a shitty lens, or not shitty, but you know, if I wouldn't have an equipment that I'm excited about using, that wouldn't even be near me, you know, it would be in a camera bag in another room or something. But because I'm buzzing about just to picking it up, I keep walking around in the house finding light, shooting, or if I have to go to the post office in a city, if I'm not buzzing about an equipment, or I don't love using it, it wouldn't be with me. And why would you carry a camera bag to the post office? But I do, you know, because you like the equipment. So in that case, gear does matter. So yeah, also it depends on what you are using. Like, gear does matter if it's you know, if it's your job or if it's your hobby. Because if it's your hobby, let's take my mom for as a hobby, because you know, she's just a regular person. Obviously she's not a photographer or anything. She's a wonderful mom, but she's not a photographer nor a videographer. But sometimes she likes to take pictures, and she takes pictures with her phone, which is perfectly fine. That's probably the best thing for like hobby people. That's why photography became so much more popular, actually, because mobile devices, because it's just the ease of use. It's a reasonable quality for social media, for what it's intended for anyway. It's not, iPhone pictures are very rarely intended for prints or book sales or professional work. However, you could do it, but you know, it's a struggle. So say for a hobby, an iPhone is insanely good. You can take a picture, you can edit exactly on the same device, and from the exact same device you can deliver it to wherever it's supposed to be. So for hobby, yeah, iPhone is fine. So you don't even need to invest too much money. If you are like a hobby street photographer, then I would say many street photographers started out with an iPhone. Like Sean Tucker, lovely guy. I think he mentioned it once that he was starting out on an iPhone with the street photography anyway, and then he got like an APS-C camera, which I would recommend as well. You can start from an iPhone, but it's just the ergonomics is when you're shooting on a street and you're touching screen and whatever, you don't have the full experience, and you don't have that many controls. You're missing out on the opportunity of using wonderful lenses, and sometimes you miss because it's touchscreen, and you know, it's just a phone. It's a great start. iPhone is a brilliant, or Android, it's a brilliant way to get into photography and to learn how to compose a picture, how to see light, to see what works. Sometimes, for example, if I don't have a camera on me and I'm location scouting, sometimes I just have the phone with me because I want to see how that location looks at a certain time of the month or whatever. And I take a few snaps and I save it in my shooting calendar. I know that how that looks in a certain kind of weather condition. So for that, the iPhone is fine. You can compose it, and you know, you can keep it in mind that the iPhone has different kind of angles. So you know, it's, I don't know, 16mm or whatever, or 12 maybe, or 24, I don't know. So you keep that in mind, but you know how a certain location looks. So yeah, but for street photography, I would definitely recommend to buy a camera body. I mean, for a few months I had I'm not a street photographer anyway, but I like technology. So I had one of these the Ricoh GR, I think it was the free. I had it for a few months, and I loved it. I took it with me everywhere. It fits in your pocket, and it's a fantastic piece of equipment for what it is. Like, it's intended for street, and it's designed for that specifically, but I didn't get along with it very well because at first I didn't know, because it's a brilliant sensor, it's a wonderful device. I just didn't know why I don't like it as much as I would. And there is no viewfinder on it, which I don't know. I like the feel of the viewfinder. I like to pick up the camera. I love the feel that you pick up the viewfinder and everything blacks out and you are in the zone, and it's just you in that moment and composing, and you see the light. It's part of my ritual. I know some people are perfectly fine with the screen. I can work with it, but it's just not my style. So I didn't like it. And the other part is, as I mentioned before, I am a massive lens nerd. Like I have a collection of lenses that I love using. Probably I would go as far as I would say this is the reason for me being a photographer, because I love using those lenses. I don't even care about the camera body because they can be adapted to Canon mirrorless or Canon or Nikon or even Pan and Olympus. You can adapt it to anything you want. I just want to use those lenses. And this is why I think Leica has a hold on the Leica people, because Leica makes these exceptional lenses, and those lenses you know, they are designed for Leica, so they work immaculately with Leica. So probably Leica shooters don't like the it's not like they don't like, but they want to use that specific lens because it's an insane good lens and it works with a Leica. So if you could afford, like, I have nothing against Leica, if I could afford to have like Leica bodies, you know, I would totally buy into it. I mean, I don't know, I'm not very huge on the rangefinder experience, but also I know I'm a massive nerd and I know I would love it. So probably one day I will buy a Leica actually. At the moment I have the Sony and that's totally fine. So also I was gonna say, like, gear does matter again. If I'm not looking into the camera, it's been pointed out to me that I don't look into the camera often enough. So yeah, gear also does matter when it's your profession. Like, let's say you are a fashion photographer or a wedding photographer, or like myself, I'm a portrait guy. Then again, gear does matter to a degree. Like, you need to have, like, for me, I'm a photographer and I have my home studio, so I have like 7 strobes. There is a wide range of what kind of strobes you could buy, and that's, you know, it's a huge spectrum of price. So you buy what you can and buy what you can afford and use that. But you have to have a certain, that's the entry. Like, if you are a portrait dude, like, you have to have strobes, you have to have a decent space to use, you have to have a decent backdrop. These all cost money, like the backdrop £500 or strobes crazy prices. And then if you are charging people for that job, then you have to have professional lenses, you have to have at least one reliable body, but preferably 2, because what if one dies? Never happens, but what if, you know, some clients are booked in and you don't have a camera, you know. So yeah, again, or if you are a wedding photographer, you definitely have to have 2 of everything, preferably the same, you know, like, so they don't have different look. Even if it's, you know, you shoot raw and everything, like, you don't have to suffer with the editing, then so you make all the pictures look the same. So yeah, if you are in a certain kind of profession, then you have to meet the basic requirements for that profession. So again, gear does matter there. So gear doesn't matter. I think knowledge matters much more, and what matters is that you love using what you have. Like, if you say, like me with that other video you guys saw, the Canon 5D Classic, I am loving that camera. Like, I love using it, and therefore I shoot with it. So there are many good examples of that camera, because if I didn't have it, I might be a forklift driver, who knows, like, you know. You know, because if you love using something, then it takes you down that path of doing it and using it more and talking about more and get into the circles and networking, and you get to know people because of that, and then you're a photographer. So yeah, gear does matter. Yeah. Oh, I also wanted to mention, just totally off the bat, it's I don't know if you guys meant to see my Instagram, but basically when I was talking about the Kodak colors, the Kodak 5D colors, the Kodak Chrome and all that stuff, so basically a few months ago, because I love that color and I want to see that kind of style, that's my style in my portfolio anyway, I want to see that in my images. I made a few Kodak presets, like Kodak Chrome, Kodak Gold, and even Portra, like a few staple kind of looks on the presets. And I know it's I don't know if anybody interested. I never thought about it selling it, but I can, because I basically made 2 kind of packages for myself, like, so it make my life easier. They are fully customizable, so you can adjust the grain or whatever, but it's one click, it looks great, and then you can custom tailor it to your own liking. So basically I made a few presets that I can use for black and white images, mainly vintage style because that's what I like, and of course the codecs. So if you guys are interested, I can package them up and put them on my website, and you guys can buy it if you wanted to, because I don't know if there's interest in, because I know lots of people look down on presets, and I am one of those people, not looking down, but I always think, like, I always tell people, like, you have the knowledge in your head how to make the picture look in a certain way in post, then you have the power. You don't have to rely on presets. But because it's for myself and that's my style, so basically in a way I'm just saving time in the edit for myself, so it was only just obvious to make it. But if there's an interest, if you guys like my stuff on social media, then let me know, and I'm more than happy to package it up in an affordable price package. These are my thoughts on the gear stuff. And I mean, I love technology and gear, but more than that I love shooting. So you very rarely find me pixel peeping, or if you would find me not using the Canon 5D Classics. I love that camera. And if you pixel peep, that camera has a terrible autofocus. So basically the only time you get focus if you are focusing straight in the middle of the screen and then compose. And obviously the light meter, everything is a bit dated, but that camera has these wonderful colors still. So yeah, gear does matter, but knowledge matters more. So I think first, when you don't have any knowledge, then you think it's all about the gear, because you see all these photographers who made it or posting wonderful images. You see them, they have these beautiful pictures, and the human psyche can't really comprehend that they are better, or not better, but they are more experienced in that thing, and therefore your mind clicks, it's because they have all the latest and greatest whatever equipment they have. So they have only beautiful videos because they have the red. And yet that could be partially reasonable, because the specs of the equipment is higher, obviously, but it's not about the specs. It's knowing how to use the light and how to use the equipment. Because honestly, shoots on an iPhone, you can make a decent footage. As I said, you can make a cinema with it. So yeah, I think it's far more important to. So what I was saying, like, at the beginning you think it's the equipment, and then you save up and spend all your money on the equipment, and then you have the equipment, and then it's like kind of dawns on you that you just spent a shit ton of money on a camera gear that first probably you don't even know how to use, because if you are new to it. So again, it's an extra stress on your system, like, oh my god, you have to learn all this stuff, and then maybe intimidating, and then you maybe won't even pick it up. Or if you do and you learn everything, then you realize that you know how to use it exactly, and perfect it and master it, and then shoot it, use it a lot, and then gain experience. You're broaden your horizon, and you know far more about the equipment and photography in general. And then you will be one of those people who will say, gear does not matter. And it is true, but you have to go to this thing again. I think it's a perpetual circle. Like, everybody thinks it's the gear, and then when you get the gear and you realize it's not the gear, but you have to have the gear first to realize that. So for example, for me, like, I don't want to be big-headed or anything, but I can take good pictures with it's always, obviously, it's style and taste, so whatever you think is good is very subjective. And so basically, to my taste, I can take good pictures with an iPhone or a toy camera or any kind of crappy device, because I understand light, and I've been doing this all my life. So if you have knowledge, yes, gear doesn't matter, because you can create. Probably it works with us. Like, say you're a painter, you like to paint pictures, and when you are new, you think it's all about, you have to have this special canvas, or you have to have these special brushes, or you have to have this exceptionally, wonderful paint. And then you start painting for years, and then you can, you become Picasso and you can paint a wonderful image with dog shit, sorry my language, but you once you know how to do it. Like, did you guys see those pictures of Picasso? I don't know who showed them, when the guy was actually drawing with light in the air with a long exposure. Like, he can draw in the air like a cat or whatever, like a silhouette, like Picasso style, and there was no canvas, there was no brush, it was just light and the camera. So if you know what you are doing, then gear doesn't matter that much, keeping in mind that it's for a purpose. Like, if you are, basically, again, if it's a profession, then you have to meet some certain baseline standards, and then above that, gear doesn't matter. If it's for hobby or personal use, then gear doesn't matter. It's good to have, nice to have, but gear doesn't matter as long as you have it in your mind and you can make it happen. I have a friend of mine, Oliver. I might link his Instagram in the bio. That dude shoots on film, and I remember he started shooting. He's got only one lens, like a Sony camera, something cheap as Sony camera, and he got one of these Meyer optic 50mm 1.8, the Oreston, I think, and he just loves that lens. That dude makes art with that one kit. Like, he doesn't have any more lenses, any more cameras, no camera upgrades. Yeah, he just creates exceptionally, insanely beautiful pictures. Very humble dude. So yeah, again, he loves that lens, so that's why he's using it, because he loves it, and he because of him using it so much, he knows everything about that lens. So he knows exactly how that lens looks in backlight. He knows how it looks in like cloudy circumstances, or at night, or different apertures, wide open or shut down. So yeah, again, gear does matter, but knowledge matters more, because if you didn't know anything, it's just a lens. You can pick that lens up for, like, I don't know, 50 pounds. It's a good lens. I'm not saying it's not. It's a good lens, good characteristic. I mean, any Meyer optic is good. But most people just don't even consider it. Like me, myself, like, I like a Summicron. I am not a 50, guys. I don't like 50s that much, but I have a few. For some reason, I don't even like 50, but I have way more many 50mm or in that 55s or whatever lenses than anything else. I love the 35mm. And for example, I have only two of those. I have the Opton Biogun, which is in service now. That's an insanely good lens for my vintage style looks. And I have the Zeiss Distagun 35mm f2, which is, I think it's just that's one of the most perfect lenses ever made. I'm gonna make a separate video of that, because that lens deserves it. It's a fairly overlooked lens, because everybody is going straight for the 1.4, and I had the 1.4, but I think the f2 is just exceptional. If you go to my Instagram, please do. I would say like 75% of my portraiture is done with that lens. It's if you go on Flickr, you don't find many good examples. I think it's just people don't use it very well, but optically it's perfect. Oh, there is some barrel distortion, but you can obviously click of a button and in post it's corrected. And the micro contrast on that thing is just off the charts. Like, honestly, it's one of the more perfect lenses ever. And also it can be used like a fake macro lens, because I mean, on my Sony it's focuses down to like 25 centimeters, and if you have like a 46 megapixel to play with, you can punch in and it's like boom, it's in your face. Even if you take a picture of a bug, you blow it up and it's still pin sharp, especially if you use some lights. Yeah. Anyway, I think I've been rambling long enough again about the gear stuff. So yeah, long story short, I think gear matters to a point, but not for the reasons you think. It matters that you love the gear, or you like the gear, or enjoy using it. So it's in your head, it's on you. So it matters for that reason. But knowledge is far more important. So you need to see light. If you guys want any kind of videos about this, that how to see light, how to shoot in general, I'm happy to make them. Just I have more time now, so I try to churn out some more videos, because yeah, I have a lot to talk about, and if you guys are enjoying it, then let's do it. Yeah, again, thanks for watching, and let me know what you guys think, and like and subscribe. Thank you.